Hey everybody, welcome to the Gapology Guys podcast, your resource for leadership tips and frameworks from our series of books. And tonight we have a very special guest joining us. Jerusha Kantasingh is a consultant who has done a bit of work with Gapology in her home country of Trinidad and Tobago. And tonight she's going to share some of what has been impactful for her clients there. This should be a super interesting conversation that I think you'll enjoy and get some practical tips for making Gapology work for you too. All right, let's go ahead and get the show rolling. Hey, Mark. Hey, Jerusha. How are you?
Hi. We're well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Good, Brian.
That's great.
Hello,
I am so excited for this episode.
Hi, Mark.
Oh my gosh. We've wanted to have you on. In fact, Mark's bothered me over and over and over again to try to get you on here. And I'm so glad that we were able to get you on. I know you're doing some really amazing things back home, and we're going to love to dive into all of that. But let me do a little introduction for our viewers. So we like to do this from time to time where we bring on a guest, somebody that is experienced with Gapology, that's put it to work for them, that has some things that they can share, some insights for our other viewers. We love to do this because it sort of gets out of the normal routine of just Mark and I talking. So it's always great to have another face on here. But let me do your introduction if that's okay. Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, and help me on the last name. So Jerusha Kantasingh, is that right?
That's right.
Ooh, man, that's pretty good right off the bat. She's an experienced dental practice consultant based in Trinidad and Tobago with over 20 years of experience in leadership, team building, and operational development. She partners with dental practices to improve efficiency, elevate patient care, and strengthen practice culture for sustainable growth. As director of Intuitive Solutions Limited, Jerusha brings international experience and a strategic approach that helps practices overcome challenges and thrive in today's evolving business landscape. And she is an official consultant working with us here at Gapology. So she's gone through some extra training as well for that. So we're super excited to have you on.
And I'm excited to be here. You guys have been doing some awesome work. I'm so proud to be a part of it. So I'm ready to answer those questions and share what I know and to lend to the whole experience.
Okay, sounds perfect. Well, why don't we just kind of go back to the beginning? So where did you first hear about Gapology?
Interesting story. I was scrolling, as we do, through social media, and my algorithms are set to leadership type things. So I came across this organization, and I think we've all seen it by now. This, I believe, is an HR manager, and she's going through. Someone walks into a room and says, "Can you tell me about employee performance?" And she has this big chart, and she's going through Gapology, and she's talking about the root solutions, and I did a double take, and I like due diligence. I'm really passionate about what I do, and I'm thinking, why does this make sense? And why haven't I heard about this before? Why haven't I read about this? And I'm thinking, well, this is too good to be true. Who's done this? And I looked at that reel maybe about 5 or 6 times, and I go, okay, it makes so much sense. I like the order, and I don't mind saying I'm dyslexic as well. So dissonance kills me. And this wasn't killing me. It was like it was making sense. Mm-hmm. And so I went and I looked up Gapology, wasn't expecting to find anything because if it was out there, I was supposed to know about it. So I found you guys. There were a number of podcasts, started with the first one, and I've looked at each one a number of times just so I can get those concepts and get those ideas and just to try to get more. And I thought, okay, well, I need to get even more than that. And then I graduated to the books. So that was my introduction. That was about early 2024 that I came across that video. And it's been a snowball since then because it's really exciting stuff and really changed the way I do. I do my leadership and management role. So that's me and Gapology and how I came upon it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think that was probably Tiffany High's video, which we were amazed to see it as well and invited her in, and she became a contributor for our 15th anniversary edition of our book. She wrote the
forward.
Yeah, awesome stuff. She really handled that. She was really on point with how she was discussing. She seemed really certain about how she was delivering it too, and that kind of was encouraging to see that someone was so certain about what they were doing in leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's definitely amazing. So when you first read the book, what sort of struck you about the book? What stood out?
Can I tell you, it was simple without being simplistic. When I first got the book, I just thought maybe there was going to be 1,000 pages of really small fine print of how to get this done, like how this Gapology principle, because as you know, in social media, we get reels, we get things that last 2-3 minutes, and then we get a 30-minute podcast. So we know the book is supposed to be so very involved. If it contained this much information, it must lay something out like really strategically and completely. And I read it through and I go, it contains everything. It's all you need to know. And that is when it first struck me, like it could be so simple without being simplistic. It still contains all of the thought processes for leadership and management, all of the complex thing that went into making it that you simplified. And it would be awesome for me, is what I was thinking, if I can bring this to the field that I'm currently in, which is healthcare. Because the people I work for, or the industry that I'm in, everybody's super busy. And they need a way to get to the point very quickly and make changes very quickly, but also understand it. These are super smart guys and gals in the industry, and you have to have that elevator speech all the time for them, because they're the number one employee in their organization. So I have to have that information about why a particular thing is a particular way, why we're making a decision, how I came to this decision. So Gapology and the book and being so simple, not simplistic, I could use this, is what my thinking was. I can use this in the industry that I'm in because it's exactly what they need.
Brian, I think you've got a new T-shirt.
I wrote it down.
But not simplistic.
Yeah,
I have not heard that before. Yeah, the amazing thing, Jerusha, is that it works everywhere. And we really believe that we discovered Gapology as part of human DNA, human process, and it simply works. It works in every industry. It works with kids. It works with adults, and it's been pretty amazing for us to have been part of that discovery. We did not invent it. We found it in the top performing leaders, and it was consistent across the board, regardless of industry, company, et cetera. And it works.
I think I thought about this at length. And I think what you actually did was also distill leadership. All of the thought processes, all of the thinking out there about leadership and the different ways to do it, to execute leadership. I think what you did was distill it to the finer parts of what actually works for the current day, for the times that we're currently in. We now know that if we do things strategically, what you did was go into organizations where you looked at the outcome being what we wanted. We want profitable. We want, profitable organizations where employees are happy, where the employers are happy, where things are working the way they're supposed to. So you looked at those organizations, and then you looked at the ones that were not performing in that regard. And then you took all of those, all of the things that were working, which you distilled to 9 things, 9 root solutions, 9 things that we could look at. And you structured it. You not only then took those things, you put them in an order. So you further distilled that part of what we were looking at in leadership to make it make sense, to put it in an order. And then in the past, what we would have done as leaders, what we would have done. We were doing due diligence all over the place, reading every book we could, consulting with attorneys, consulting with consultants. That's how we did leadership in the past, making sure that we had the best decisions for our owners, our organizations. So that's how we did it in the past. And not what you did was distill what was out there into workable parts that people can actually see, that we can pinpoint. Now, each one of those points can be broken down into the other leadership thinking, like the types of training we can do and why it will work. How we how we communicate. That's another way. There's so many different ways we can communicate now, and how we express ourselves and our expectations. So all of those things still uses all of the other systems and thought processes. But what you said to us was, this is what it is. This is the order it has to be. And this is the way it works in the real world. And we didn't have that before.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. The framework makes it simple. It does flow in an order, which is needed because that's how gaps are closed in that framework. And it's been amazing that it literally works everywhere. I know I've said that already, but I've never known of anything, to that extent where it works everywhere. And
yeah, it puts us all on even keel then. And now our talent is actually how we execute it, how well we execute it, where we get the systems to actually execute those root solutions and things. That's our talent now. But you've already ordered it. You've already, made it a science, which I appreciate. You've done industries. I was born out of retail in the US. That's where I started. So I understand the science that goes into businesses, organizations. I started with a Fortune 500 company in retail. Wow. And the science told us that the number of guests or the number of customers in a line, how many were too many before the customers started becoming upset. They told us, why we folded merchandise and we put it on the shop floor. We knew there was a science for everything. So I appreciate that you've made this into a science for us that we can follow.
Yeah, we initially found it in retail in the US. So
I recognized all of the elements. That was the funny thing. I recognized all of the elements and I thought, why didn't I think of this and putting it in an order, right? And that was the thing. That was the thing that was taking up a lot of our time, actually. When we were looking at something. So for example, sometimes we could have two different circumstances, two different incidences that happen in an organization, and we're thinking it's two different gaps, two different issues that have occurred when they can all belong to one of the gaps. And I think that took a lot of time. And because you guys forced us now to look at the knowledge gap first, regardless, that helps us to, cut through the chase. So for example, in the clinic, you were just in a dental practice, Mark, right? So in a clinic, if I break something because I didn't put it back in the right spot or in the right way, facing in the right direction, that could very well be a knowledge gap because I wasn't trained to do it. But ideally, anyone looking at that would say it's not. It's just if you did not know the importance of doing something, or it was an action gap. You knew what to do because I told you a million times, I showed you once, and you might be thinking it's that. But then an employee who tells not the right thing to a patient, right? That can also be a knowledge gap. But I didn't break something. It's still a knowledge gap. Right. So we were busy diagnosing things in different ways because of the severity of what it was or how it seemed. But now you forced us to come back to the knowledge gap, start there and see where we've gone wrong or what we can improve.
No, that's a great point. The leader wants to blame somebody else for the issue. So they often will say it's not a knowledge gap. We covered that already, but they didn't confirm that the team understood it. So no, it's a great point.
Yeah, no, I love what you've been saying. One of the things that I wanted to tie a little thread here. So, Mark, you've been saying is it works in all industries. And I think this is a great example that, we have never really worked with the dental industry. We've worked with a lot of other kind of companies, but never that particular industry. But it's just a really great example. And if anybody goes back and watches any of our previous podcasts, we've done podcasts on almost every type of leadership situation out there. We've been doing podcasts for, I think this is officially our 10th season. So we've done a lot of these and we've talked about all sorts of situations. So for any of our viewers or listeners, if you haven't had a chance to do that, go back and listen to some of those. But I love how you're tying it that, you go in order, be methodical, think about that process. It is a scientific process. There is a lot of, I think, art involved with how you execute it, but follow that structure and that'll lead you to success.
Yeah, if you wanted to have your own flavor to things, you can still have your own flavor to things.
Sure.
And that's where I'm saying our talent is what makes us good leaders. That is where it is. How creative we are with finding that training solution. How creative we are with teaching. That we still have autonomy, but there's no need to go, create something else now because we already have the order. We already have what's working in the environment. And that takes a lot of time out of the day. And let me just mention this. I'll tell you what I've done, how it's affected my organization. So last year we would enter an organization, and whether that organization had a leader or not, for us to be able to work with directly, we would engage as well. We would engage still and hope and train some of the staff members to a particular point to where they can actually continue what we trained and developed on. And we didn't think that was working 100%. We weren't achieving the benchmarks that we set for ourselves, where we wanted continuity and not that we had to be there for something to work all the time. So this year, from January 1st, we decided that we would not enter an organization until the first thing we did was train and develop a person in the organization on Gapology. How to see what we see, so they can diagnose with us. So, and then I let them know that this is a diagnosing process because we're in the industry, right? We're an industry where people are diagnosing things. And I go through the entire process with them, and I liken it to dentistry, that when we start with the knowledge gap, we're starting with the little x-rays. We're doing our diagnosis. We're doing our exam.
Yeah.
It gets more complex. Okay. It's not the knowledge gap because they know what to do and how to do it. So it must be another type of x-ray we need to take to delve a little bit deeper. So I liken it to the industry, and in medical as well. I say we do the vitals first, and then we go into blood tests, and then we go into imaging, things like that. So I line it because Gapology is all new. But one of the things we won't do anymore is going into an organization where we've not pinpointed a leader that we can transfer that sort of thinking to. So I spend 5 weeks, 1 hour to hour and a half per week training, and usually it's the dentist that we're doing this with. Mostly it's a dentist, but now we've graduated to where we've encouraged some practices to have practice managers on board, because you should always have for the consistency factor. So we're really excited, and Gapology has allowed us to do that. And where the habit ladder comes in, which is another famous thing from you guys, I really, truly appreciate it. We're at the point where we are using it for how we execute. It's our thing for how we execute to make sure that there's a habit before we leave, because that's what we want to have happen. So we're able to transfer in. First, we're able to have someone in the practice see what we see, to be able to find gaps and close them. Be able to use the habit ladder to get to that level of expertise they want for anything. So we're really excited about the product, or the products that you guys have given us.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you mentioned the habit ladder. I actually had a note to ask you about that, because you had sent me that one picture that had it listed out, and you were teaching a class. It was a wonderful picture.
Oh, it was my banner. I meant to bring it today. Yeah. It's my banner. I have it. And I use it on my seminars. And when I do workshops, and I actually did it this week with a trainee, someone that we're training for the clinic. And can I tell you the reaction that I get when I'm doing Gapology and the habit ladder with people? I mean, it's amazing. The reaction from the doctors, it has changed their lives. They are so welcoming of the idea that all they have to do is to go into their organizations and find gaps. And they're going to happen. There's no organizations that gaps are not going to happen, right? But it's closer to the utopia when we can go in and find out how the day is going without having to hear things about, someone's having an off day, someone has an attitude, someone doesn't want to do what they're supposed to, the communication is poor. And the utopia is that you can now go in and say, tell me where the gaps are today. Mm-hmm. And the person that we've trained should be able to say, well, we have a performance gap in this particular area, in the knowledge gap area, because we feel that the phone skills are not translating as well as they should. This is what a patient was told. And we know it's because we've not completed the training. So we're going to get to that. And the way we're going to do it is do it in the morning huddle every day. And we're going to do some role play. So that's me communicating to a doctor what his days, how his practice is going to run today. So who wouldn't like to be in that environment where someone's taking care of the gaps, telling you how they're going to close it, and all you have to do at the end of the day is to check on that gap. Were we able to execute on that gap? Were we able to close it? What resources do you need from me? Without having to, take care of it ourselves. So it's a good day for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were talking about that, I was thinking, utopia, that would be great, right? We're always working toward that. But when you're saying that, I was thinking, Gapology is really a great tool to use proactively to prevent gaps, to try to build toward that utopia. But then when gaps occur, it can be used reactively as well. It's really a unique tool in that manner that you can use it on both sides.
Absolutely. And that is absolutely true because that's what we're doing. We're introducing Gapology. We're going to prevent some from some practice teams from walking into a wall sometimes where they encounter problems after. This usually happens when they get new equipment, or actually in any organization when they're just about starting to grow. That little growth spurt. So they've been at a particular level for a long time and they feel encouraged about being able to grow. Now they have the tools, the right people in the right place, and they're wanting to grow. It helps them to stop hitting that wall because usually when you get new equipment, so Mark, you were saying that, they had some 3D printing equipment at the practice that you went to. Dentistry is changing so fast, new equipment all the time, new things to know. So that's a constant learning environment. They're constantly having to do their continuing education. So it's marvelous to have something that helps them work through that. And the wall that they don't get to hit then is that where they get some new equipment and they don't know how to get their staff up to that level of being able to communicate the value of the equipment or the new training, the new things that they're doing in dentistry, the new services they're offering. You can get to that before we even buy the equipment. You can do the training, the training for how to communicate the new services before we even start the services. We can using the habit ladder and using Gapology.
Yeah. So I sort of have a question. I'm just thinking about your consultancy itself and what you do, because this is sort of a unique situation, how we've built our relationship, over the last, how long has it been? It's
2 years.
2 years. Yeah. So for the last 2 years, how have you actually integrated Gapology into your existing consultancy? I'm sort of interested in that because I think there's opportunity for other people possibly to get involved with us here, not to replace what you already do, but possibly integrate it into, what they do as well.
Right. So Gapology goes into every training that we do, initial training. So we must have that. We must have someone who communicates like us, who actually not communicates with us, someone who sees what we see when we go through doing our diagnosis and the treatment plan for what is needed in the practice, what we need to help with the growth and development and the training. So ideally, how it's impacted our consultancy is that we first get someone to see in a structured leadership framework so they understand their organization as we're going to present it to them. That's the first step. Then we help them with training their staff to do the same. So then we switch to the habit ladder. So we help the leaders. We train the leaders with Gapology. And then we help the leaders with the training part of it, how to train their own staff, even with Gapology, but using the habit ladder. So we can continue to distill Gapology. So we present Gapology to the head of the organization, and then we break it down to more manageable parts for the staff below so they can kind of get accustomed and acclimatized to the use of Gapology in their practice. The way we use the habit ladder more frequently for ourselves is to get ready to train and develop a practice. So this was a conversation that we had quite a while ago, Mark, when you were writing the book as well, and I was telling you that I was kind of working on something as well. It's for the use of the habit ladder for just ourselves, the questions that we must ask for the communication level. How are we going to communicate to the staff? How are we going to get the buy-in from them? What are we going to present? Do we have the training material? Is it tried and true? So using the habit ladder to make sure that we have this knowledge, skills, and abilities to help our clients is where we are, and how we're using Gapology and the habit ladder. And then we go on to, making sure we check the understanding. Like once in a while, I'll shoot you an email and say, hey, this is my understanding of something. What are your thoughts? I remember I did that with the definition of behavior versus action. Mm-hmm. And I was saying to you, like, hey, my psychology background says it should be this, and you're using it in this regard. You're using it interchangeably in this regard. And that's when you said to me, well, the behavior is really the behavior of the leader. And the action is everything that is produced from that behavior of the leader, the team's behavior, how the leader influences the external. So I get to test my understanding of a subject. So I'm using the habit ladder. And then I have the agreement of my trainers that this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to execute it. I make the commitment that this is how it's going to be executed myself. This is what and this is how we're going to stick to it. And we go from there, and we build, make sure we have the right things, keep working on it with the clients until they achieve a level that we feel confident that we can leave them with, that they can repeat the behavior.
Well, the leader is most often the gap, and they don't want to know that or admit that. But when that gap gets closed, then they're able to narrow it down to the team and determine where the other gaps are. But the leader, often unwilling to admit it, maybe totally unaware of it, they are the gap. They assume things are understood by the team that are not. They assume that their training was effective, but it's not. And again, the habit ladder is an incredible tool that helps overcome that. But when the leader closes their gaps, everything starts coming together. And again, Gapology was built on our study of leaders that were totally outperforming everyone else. And we were able to figure out what they were doing. And it was Gapology. Even though they didn't know it, it was Gapology.
Absolutely. And I've had some really negative reactions to that accountability part for the leaders. But I've been able to work through it, but I've had to temper it a little bit, and I'll say, hey, don't throw things at me. But sometimes we're the gap, right? I've had some really negative reactions, but just in being able to explain it and to show them how it becomes, and to show them the foundation where we sit, and when there's a crack in what we do and we're not performing the way we're supposed to, what happens at the top. So I've been able to explain it so far, but I've had some really telling the doctors like, hey, sometimes you're the problem. Yeah. So it's been a little bit tricky. But the number one question, if I can tell you, when I do Gapology, I've had the number one question be, Jerusha, after I go through the knowledge gap, the importance gap, the action gap, how do I hold my team accountable? But the world has changed, and what they mean is, how do I hold them accountable because I told them to do something and they didn't? And the world changed to where accountability in organizations now is holding them accountable to what they agreed to do, to what they were hired to do. So that's a better place to be, to hold someone accountable to the things that they've committed to doing, which is what Gapology teaches. So when we've made that switch, and we've started back from okay, let's start again at the knowledge gap, and I'll tell you why, and I'll show you why that we can't hold them accountable until we get to this spot, till we've done the other 8 things, right? Until we've made everything, make them measured everything that they're doing and shown them, given them the opportunity to improve. We can't hold them accountable. It's usually where we have to go back and train and retrain, or tell them, let them know the importance of why they're doing something, and just telling them the why we're doing what we do.
That's where the habit ladder really comes in and is unbelievably effective. So you communicate this process we're rolling out. You then verify understanding, which most leaders skip over that part. And in the virtual world, verifying understanding is often difficult. They have to have a plan for that. But then you ask for their agreement, their commitment to that process. That changes everything.
Everything. Absolutely.
That changes everything.
100%. Yes.
And then practice and feedback. And that creates habit. So the habit ladder is, we should write another book, Brian. It should just be the habit ladder. And I mean, it's part of Gapology, but it's so, it works every time kind of thing. You know, and leaders need it, and they often don't know it. And again, in the virtual world where you're on a screen with somebody, you need the habit ladder. You got to figure out how you're going to use it in order to get something implemented that needs to be implemented at a high level. So
the thing that stands out mostly to me when I heard about the habit ladder is when you said in the podcast that you were doing, you said this is where organizations usually stop, and you were pointing to the understanding part of it. Yeah. That stands out. And I took a little bit of offense because maybe that was me. You know, maybe I could be accused of that maybe 1 or 2 times. And I'm thinking, okay, that's not going to happen again. Right. So it really puts a finer point on, you know, if we know this works, we have enough examples, we've tried it a couple of times, you're encouraged to keep going. There is no other way. You can't stop at understanding because you're setting the employee up for failure, and you're not going to get the result that you want. So we have only ourselves to blame. So we can't stop at understanding. And no one who says to us, well, I told them 100 times, just like you always say, Mark, you know, telling ain't teaching, that stands out as well. So I make sure not to make that mistake.
Yeah, verifying understanding is something you have to figure out how you're going to do that for a given process. You have to verify understanding. Sometimes it's a test. Sometimes it's, you know, observation. That, again, there's many ways to go after it depending on what you're doing, but it has to be there. You cannot assume understanding. And Absolutely. Many leaders assume understanding, and therefore they become the gap, and it carries on through.
Very true. Absolutely. We cannot assume. We have to make sure. But just the understanding part as well. Can I tell you that this is where, again, the talent is, because it seems simple enough. Like there's a ladder with 5 rungs and we should be able to move through. We can ask a couple of questions and check for understanding. This, again, is where the talent is. And I implore every leader to have some sort of conflict resolution or mediation type training, listening to understand type training, because you have to really know if you're in a group of people who are not wanting to say that they really don't understand, how do you check, you know, that each person understands, especially in medicine or in the healthcare field. We have to make sure that someone understands the importance of what they're doing, because no matter what they do in a practice, what role they have, no matter what their task is, I can link it to how it affects a patient if they do it well and if they don't do it well. So checking for that understanding and role playing to make sure that you get that and you can see that that is being executed. This is where I'm telling you the talent of a leader comes in, and this is where you can hone your skills and shine like a star. This is where there's no switching up of the habit ladder, no switching up of Gapology. This is where you're honing your skills to be able to execute at the highest level.
Yeah, your level of understanding is exceptional, just so you know. And
thank you.
And no, it's exceptional, and it will help so many, you know, practices achieve greatness. It's really impressive. So, well done.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you very much.
So
I appreciate that.
I'd like to sort of tie a bow on this, if we can, by just if you could share maybe 1 or 2 things, pieces of advice for our other viewers, something that you did that created some success, something that they could replicate.
So for the dental offices where the doctors, and I'm speaking mainly to healthcare, I can speak to other industries because I've worked in them, but just for the healthcare part of it, because it's new, hip and happening, and then you can see how it applies to Gapology. There are a lot of dentists who run their practices. It's a certain size, they run their practices, they try to keep in the know of everything. My advice to them would be learn Gapology. And I think it's the first step of letting go and letting the reins go to see the difference. Because even in using the habit ladder, even if they wanted to start with the habit ladder, to see the difference it can make in the execution of tasks, that shows on the bottom line, because that's how we can tell there's improvement. And that's how we can tell that, our employees are being trained and developed. It will show. I implore them to at least try the habit ladder. Pick a task, a training, something new that's going to be happening in the practice, or something old that's happening that's not working well. And use the habit ladder to get the employees up to a particular level, that they're satisfied that if they keep training and developing, that they're going to be, that is going to become a habit. And the way you know that that is actually reached fruition is when that person who's been training and developing can now train someone else. That is an automatic show on the bottom line. The other thing that they can try, another piece of advice to see immediate return on investment, which is, like I said, the only way that we can tell that this is working, is if they say one of the tasks that is so key and critical to the organization, which is usually phone skills, especially in dentistry, we have to call patients all the time. And we Google, we use AI, we get some phone scripts, we use the habit ladder, we train and develop, we see what mistakes are being made using Gapology, and then we train and develop, we use over a particular period of time. Just give it a couple of weeks. Immediate return on investment. That is what we've been able to achieve with using it ourselves, with the practices that we've been working with. It's usually the first point to show and to demonstrate, hey, we kind of know what we're talking about. This works, right? Yeah. So we go there, we show them that initial thing. But you see, those are just our party's tricks. We can do that for sure. We will leave you with that skill and knowledge, but there are other things in the organization that need to follow suit. And so by that time, we've built the trust, and they're able to buy into the other things, sometimes reluctantly, but we demonstrate because it's a science, and I can walk behind that. I can be behind a scientific process, tried and true. And I think one of the questions I did ask you, Mark, in the beginning is like, can you tell me who else is on this platform? Which other healthcare organizations? Who else? I can see there are a number of people, and it's building the number of people using Gapology on your website. So that's awesome, endorsing, and that's the advice I would give to the healthcare people, just to give it a try. Start small, and they will be encouraged to grow.
Well said.
Wonderful. All right. And what else would you like to share? How can people get in touch with you, your organization? You want to give some information on that?
Yeah. So we're on Instagram. That's usually the way people find us. We do have a website, intuitivesolutionstt.com.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, I'll just add it to the screen so all of our viewers on YouTube can go ahead and watch that. Jerusha, thank you so much for this time. It was wonderful catching up, hearing about your excellent success there. We're very proud of you. Very excited to work alongside you. Thanks very much. Mark, any final words?
Well, let's do it again, when we can, Jerusha. Your knowledge of Gapology is exceptional, and it's similar to how we, came to it. It worked everywhere where we implemented it, and we were amazed by it. And so you really are a standout in terms of your ability to explain it and use it, and so your client base is very well served, and you'll do very well. So let's stay in touch, and let's do this again regularly.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I so appreciate you, and especially for what I do. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you soon.
You as well. Bye-bye.
All right, that'll do it from here. For more information on all of our books and training services, head on over to our website, gapology.org, for all the links and details. Everyone have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you soon.